Thanks, Ben. So, my question today is, will nanobots take over the world? And this is a question I'm asked on a daily basis. And I thought we could answer this together. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Michelle. Most people call me Nano Girl, even in the street. I don't think people know my real name, actually. So if you want to find me on Twitter, I'm Dickinson. I tweet things about science, about my job. Every so often, a picture of my dog, sort of random stuff. But feel free to tweet to me. A little bit about me, just in case you haven't met me before, you don't know who I am. I have a day job, but I do lots of stuff. So let's start with the most fun thing. I work on the Paul Henry Show and also First Line Breakfast News. So I am TV3's science correspondent. I make sure that actually we do real science in TV as opposed to all these like rumors about the fact that eating too much meat is as bad for you as smoking. No, it's not. Don't believe that. I go in there and I come in with the scientific facts. So I have to fight with this guy on a weekly basis, which, you know, is good training for anything. I work at the university. I run my own lab. I run New Zealand's only nanomechanical testing research lab. It's actually the only one of its type in the world. It's pretty fun. People from everywhere come and hang out with us. These are my students. I have grad students, PhD students. I teach a bunch of undergrads. Are there any people in here who I've taught at undergrad? Oh, there's one. Oh, there's two. Oh, look, you've all grown up. I write for SciBlogs. I'm a blogger. I blog about science. I mostly blog about nanotech, but I blog about whatever annoys me that day, especially if I see stuff in the press and I'm like, oh, really? That's not true. So you can follow me as Nano Girl on SciBlogs. I write for Green Ideas magazine. It's an actual magazine. You can buy it in the store. So I do a lot of stuff. If you like science, I've given a TEDx talk. If you haven't seen it, it's got more nanotech in there, different stuff than I talked about today. And I'm doing another one in June. Can't tell you what it's on yet. And if you have kids, they may know me as Nano Girl because I go into schools and I just spread the science love. So that's kind of my day. And I walk my dog. So we'll start with the basics, which is what is nano? And people say to me all the time, Michelle, what actually is nano? Because I have an iPod Nano, right? And I'm like, no, no, that is not. So I start with, well, nano is like very, very, very small. And then I see if their eyes glaze over. And if they don't, I'll continue. 10 to the power of minus 9 meters small. And then usually I see the glazing. And I'm like, OK, bear with me. 0.00001 of a meter. That makes more sense to everybody, right? No. Let's start with this. Please volunteer by pulling out one of your hairs from your head. If you are follically challenged, please speak to your neighbor and ask if they will donate a hair for this experiment. If you look really carefully at your hair, you may have to close one eye, you'll see that your human hair has a width. That width is 100,000 nanometers. So I deal with things that are 100,000 times smaller than what you are holding right now. That is nano. I could have actually said to you, pick up a piece of paper. You've got paper on your table, that's 100,000 nanometers wide, but it's way more fun to see you pull out your hair. So if you are very fair-skinned and fair-haired, your hair is probably about 80,000 nanometers wide. If you are Asian, it's probably 120,000 nanometers wide, but you get the idea. Okay, it's freaking small. Why is nano fascinating? Nano has taken over my life. I literally eat, breathe, sleep nanotechnology. And I am fascinated in it because, number one, nanomaterials are incredibly strong. You may have heard of these things called carbon nanotubes. We've thrown like $30 billion to try and build a space elevator out of it. There's a project. That's an elevator to space, for those of you who don't understand space elevator. We're looking at doing it with carbon nanotubes. That's insane. We are actually building an elevator to space. So it's cool because nanomaterials are incredibly strong, and that's what we're going to build our space elevator out of. They're see-through. That means I can hide them everywhere, and you don't know that you're actually touching them. Because they're transparent, I can put them on all sorts of devices and screens and lenses, and you don't have to know that they're there. I'm pretty sure everybody in here has a smartphone. I'm pretty sure everybody in here couldn't live without their smartphone. I wouldn't know where I was, who I was meeting. I couldn't stalk you on Facebook to match your name to your face without my smartphone. That couldn't have happened without nanotech. There's a whole bunch of small electronics in there that require nanotech. And they behave very differently than when they are bigger. And so this is how I do my talks. Some of you may have one of these on your table. If you do, could you just, somebody volunteer and hold up this glass? There should be, okay, one. So if you don't have one, everybody stare at the person right now who's closest to you who has one of these. I'm going to ask you to do a very simple thing for me. I'm going to ask you to take some water and pour it into the glass, just a little bit. Oh, before you do, there's something inside your glass. Can you take that out? Sorry, thank you for that, before I destroy this experiment. Okay, you should see that I can pour water into my glass. Everybody got it? And then can you just pour it out of your glass? Science. Now, you should also have another wine glass. Do you also have another wine glass? Some of you have a beer mug. Just to let you know, this is Lego wine glasses. Somewhere, since I've grown up, Lego people now drink. I didn't know that they did, but they have beer mugs and wine glasses for Lego people. Please, will you do the same thing? Can you fill up your Lego glass with some water? And now, will you do exactly the same thing? Can you just tip it, just like you did, and pour it out for me? Is anybody's actually leaving their glass? Because mine is still in here. What did I do? I didn't change anything other than the size. But by changing the size, I completely changed the way that this behaves. And that is why nanotechnology is cool. This isn't even nano. This is like Lego-sized micro-technology. So the reason why it's cool is because as you change the size scale and you make things smaller, they behave very differently. In this case, surface tension overrides gravity, which it didn't do in the bigger glass. So can you put these back in? Because I need a child actually owns these, so I need to actually get them back to the child. Otherwise, their Lego men can't drink. So that's the size scale effect. And so all the things that we know are true in the world that we live in, which is the macro scale, tend not to apply at the nanoscale. Gold, which is called gold because it's gold in color, is red at the nanoscale. If you're lucky, it's blue, but it's not gold. And you're like, hold on, it's called gold because surely it's gold. No, it's not. Certain materials such as glass, if I give you a piece of glass and I said, please throw that on the floor, you'd be like, cool, that'll smash. If I give you a little piece of nanoglass, it will bounce elastically. It's highly elastic. It will not shatter. All you have to do is bring things down in size to completely change the way that they behave. That's why it's fascinating, because every day I'm like, whoa, what's going to happen? I have no idea, and it's pretty cool. I make nano things. I make all sorts of stuff. These are just some of the things that I make in my lab. I have nano cubes, nano balls. The green one is a nano flower, because I'm a girl, and there's no function for that. It's just pretty. I make little nano hairs. I'll talk about the nano hairs at the end and what I'm doing with them. And basically, I do real science, but I have a bunch of fun, too. Now, some of you have already had a go of this, but one of the cool nano things I play with is ferrofluids. And so I'm going to pass this around in a second. There are some magnets on the bottom. You can change the magnetic field. Inside here are iron oxide nanoparticles, and you can pretty much just make whatever shape you want. Have some fun. Pass it around if you haven't let it go. It's my beautiful volunteer, thank you, who's going to help. Help pass it around. So ferrofluids are an example of nanoparticles. We use those in loudspeakers. We use them in computers. I use them in medical imaging. We throw them into an MRI. You can ingest them. We can look at parts of your body that you don't want to see. Some of you, please hold up if you have a bag that looks like this. It's not sherbet. Those of you who have licked it will find yourself. The bathrooms are that way. It will go through very quickly. So if you have a bag of this, please take your cup, bowl, and fill it somewhat with water. You should also have a spoon. Spoon, or pour, it's up to you, some of this into the water. So this is just sand, but it's special sand. And hopefully you should see when you pour it in that it does something pretty amazing. Whoa! If you don't have it, stare at a table that does have it. Can those tables who have it please? Now, if you have a spoon, the spoon will let you can spoon it out and redo it. You can do this experiment as many times as you wish. What we have here is we have sand. Okay, I'll let you have your moment with the sand. I'll talk about the science stuff. This sand is full of nanoparticles, which we've coated on the outside. These nanoparticles resist fluid. It makes it hydrophobic. What it means is the sand won't get wet. So if you take your spoon and you start digging it out and you mix it around, you'll find that it's not getting wet. It's totally dry, right? Look, it's totally dry. You put it under water, it's completely dry. You can stir it all you like. I know, that's my face every day. So superhydrophobicity is something I do a lot of. I have a big research group on it. Not to do with sand, obviously. You have it for real functions, but that's another thing you can do with nanocoatings. So the question is, nanobots, will they really take over your brain? That's probably the most common question I have. And I think to myself, why would somebody get that idea? And then I think of my favorite alien species. And if you don't know my dog, my dog is named after the Borgs. Anyway, it's a whole other thing. Famous alien species because they use nanotechnology to control the minds and assimilate. And I was like, yes! And I realized that this is probably my first introduction to nanotechnology eating people's brains, and I'm okay with it. So, okay, I can get the idea why people might think that nanotech might be a bad thing. There's 2 Will Smith pictures today. Did you see JD had his Will Smith before? There's like a theme happening. If you've seen iRobot, you know it's about these robots that are trying to kill everybody. And the way that Will Smith actually kills these robots is through a nanobot virus that he injects in, and it kills all the bots. Again, nanobots not getting really good attention, media attention here if they're killing everything. People said to me, how did you get to be a nanotechnologist? And I said to them, it was really simple. I had a lot of spare time, and I read this book. This is a true story. I was going to be a real engineer, and I was specializing in fracture mechanics, and I was looking at aircraft wings and failure of fatigue and forensics, and when your plane falls out of the sky, let's put the pieces back together and figure out who we're going to sue. And then I read this book, and I was like, nanobots eating people's brains. I need to do this. And that is seriously how I became a nanotechnologist. This book changed the way I do my life, pretty much, and I'm obsessed now with nanotech. Not necessarily in your brains, but you'll see maybe a little bit. So then I get people, after they've asked me, are nanobots going to eat my brain out, they say, should I just avoid all nanotechnology? Should I be really scared of it? And I say, well, let me ask you a question. Have you touched nanotech today? How many of you think you've touched nanotechnology today? How many of you think you haven't? Okay, good. Let me ask you a question. Did anybody do this today? I don't know which part of your body you did it on. But girls and boys, did you do this today? Yes? Okay, so you've been nanoteched, I'm afraid. On your razor blade is about 4 nanometers of DLC, diamond-like carbon, on the razor blade. It's what keeps it sharp, and it is what blunts it after a week, so you have to buy another refill. I was actually involved with the research in that to work out the consumer buying time. It's very bad. That's why I left industry. I was like, but we can make them last forever. And they were like, no, no, no. So I won't tell you which company I work for, but it was the big one that has Mach 4. So the question is, if you have used a razor blade today, then you've already had nanotechnology touch whatever part of your body you wish to have it touch. Have you washed your clothes? Have you been sprayed? I cycle in every day, apart from today, and my helmet says nano-powered. I'm like, what? Wow, cool. It has silver nanoparticles inside there, and you'll find these bottles I found in Pack and Save for $4.99. So you can now buy silver nanoparticles in a can at your supermarket. You can now buy a Samsung washing machine that infuses nanoparticles into your wash. Silver nanoparticles are antibacterial, and basically you can spray them on anything and it stays clean and it stops smelling. So chances are if you have things, like you can buy socks with nanoparticles in them now, you've probably touched a surface that's been sprayed, you've probably touched it today, but that's good because you smell clean. Most of the new buildings here in Auckland now have nanotech glass. All of the high sky-rise buildings that you see have a special coating. It's titanium dioxide. It's 15 nanometers thick, and it means your window self-cleans when it rains. It's amazing. Unless you're a window cleaner, obviously. But other than that, it's self-cleaning glass, and it's pretty much everywhere in all new builds. If you play tennis with Wilson, they actually have little nanoclay particles now inside your tennis ball. It stops them going soft, and it means that they bounce for longer. And like I said, if you guys have an iPhone, I used to do a lot of consulting for Apple. If you have anything from Generation 3 or Generation 4 iPhone, I've worked on the surface. There's a scratch-free thing on your glass coating. It's about, I can't tell you very much about it before I get sued, but I can tell you that you can take your key to your iPhone and you can not scratch the surface, and that's pretty much down to some stuff that I did for them. So if you have an iPhone, you've probably touched Nanotech today. So back to the question, will nanobots really take over your brain? Well, sort of, but I'm going to tell you that it's for good, not evil. I run a research lab, and part of my research is looking at people's brains. And I've been involved in this project called a brain on a chip. I literally have created a little electric chip. It's about 1 mil by 1 mil, and I can put brain cells on there. It has electrodes on the bottom, so I can measure the exact current that each brain cell is putting out, and I can annoy the heck out of one of them and see if it tells all the other guys. This is my brain cell on a chip. I can't do this without nanotech. There's a whole load of complex stuff in there. And these are all my brain cells. And what I do is I line them all up, and then I figure out how do brain cells talk to each other. They talk to each other through electric current. And so if I can measure that current on each brain cell, which I now can on my chip, I can work out how they communicate. And what happens when they go astray? I like this picture. I was taking a snapshot, and this dude is leaving, okay? Now, I make these chips with these grids on, so the brain cells have to stay where they are, and this guy on the left is gone. And I'm like, no, 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 stay. What happens when brain cells go astray? We have a lot of diseases to do with brain cells. Alzheimer's is a great one. And what we don't know with diseases like this is your brain cell diseased to the point that it stops talking? Or does it talk in a different language? Or are the others just not listening? So when you lose communication between your brain cells through certain diseases, what's actually going on? Because if we can figure that out, we can hopefully come up with a cure. So I do put nanobots in a brain system, but it's for good, not evil. I also make nanoparticles as hunters. And people are like, hunters, that's bad nanotech. This is my friend Bob. This is Bob the mouse. Bob, sadly, is going to be infused with nanoparticles. They are gold nanoparticles. What I've done is I've put a special coating on the outside. That coating has an antibody on it. That antibody is only attracted to one thing, and that is cancer. What happens is I can inject these nanoparticles, they're called functionalized nanoparticles, into this, whatever it is, animal. And if they have any cancerous cells in there, the nanoparticles swim around your bloodstream and immediately bind to it. When they do that, you can now see exactly where the cancer cells are in your body. These are fluorescently tagged. I can also put a heat treatment on them where, because light can shine through your skin, if we shine the light on you, it heats up those nanoparticles. Those nanoparticles are hot enough to kill whatever they're in contact with. Luckily, they're only in contact with cancer cells. That's pretty awesome. Okay, so they hunt down the bad guys and they kill them, and I'm okay with that. So yes, I make killer nanobots. But I think it's all right. So this is another thing that I do in my lab, which is functionalized nanoparticles. Finally, some of the fun things that I do, there is a real function. By the way, I am industry sponsored to do things for real, but I like doing fun things. If you have a rubber duck, please hold it up. Yesterday, these were regular rubber ducks from the $2 store. These are now nano ducks. What I have done is I have coated them with a nano superhydrophobic coating, meaning that they can't get wet. And so if you have a dish, it doesn't matter if you've got sand in it, and you put your little rubber duck on there, and you take your spoon and you try and get it wet. If you don't have one, some table close to you should have one. You should see that you can't get this thing wet. It's completely superhydrophobic. Try as you might, it's going to stay dry. Because I've coated the bottom of your duck is actually currently levitating on the water. Because it's superhydrophobic, instead of sitting on the water and being in contact with it, your duck is actually levitating off the surface of the water. You all have levitating rubber ducks, just so you know how cool that is. So obviously there are real applications for that, but superhydrophobicity is a pretty cool thing. And you remember I was talking about those little nano hairs at the beginning. What do I make those for? Of course, I'm going to make them because I want to make a spider suit and I want to climb stuff. So I'm currently using Nanotech for reversible adhesion. What I do is you take the gecko, you look at its feet, you're like, hey, that's cool. It's cool because it's got these little nano hairs on them. It has so many nano hairs that it's just van der Waals bonding, but there's so much of it, it can actually hold a gecko. I figured I'm just going to make gloves out of this, and I'm just going to climb stuff. So reversible adhesion using 3D printing is something I'm working on right now. It's pretty fun, I have to tell you. I'm trying to figure out how to attach them to my feet so the gloves work, but it's like, what do I want? Like the little, I don't know, I haven't decided yet. Do I want my whole body to stick so I can worm up the wall? I don't know. This is my day job. This is what I do. So back to the original question. Will nanobots take over the world? I hope so. But I hope it's by people like me who use them for good and not evil. I hope that there's going to be different treatments for cancer based on nanotechnology. I hope that you never have to wash again because you can spray yourself with superhydrophobic stuff and just like spill food down your front and it rolls right off. I hope that everybody has a levitating duck at some point in their life because you should. Because life's too short not to have fun. So the answer is yes, hopefully, probably not in our lifetime, but I think nanotechnology is really going to exponentially increase in the next 10 years. And so with that, I would like to thank you for your time. I'm just going to slightly plug, if you have children who want to meet Nano Girl, I'm going to be at MOTAT all on Sunday as part of the Science Street Fair. I will bring some ducks. Kids can come play and do all of this. So if you have kids who are interested in science, please bring them along to MOTAT on Sunday. If you want to see more, my new video with Reese Darby just came out. Go to nanogirl.net. You can see that in my TED Talks on random stuff. And I will take any questions that you might have.